The Imperial scout ship hung silently in the darkness beyond Pluto's orbit. Its sensors, far more advanced than anything humans had ever imagined, swept across the solar system with cold precision. Inside the vessel, Commander Frank of the Galactic Empire's Scout Division watched the data stream across his screens with growing interest. Another primitive world, his second-in-command said, looking at Earth's technological signatures. They haven't even colonized their own moon permanently. Frank leaned forward, his eyes narrowing. Something felt off about this assessment, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Send the initial report to High Command. Mark it as a potential Category 3 acquisition target. Little did Frank know, his ship's presence hadn't gone unnoticed. Deep within Cheyenne Mountain, Admiral James Miller stood before a bank of advanced sensors that officially didn't exist. The room was cold, lit only by the glow of screens showing data that, according to all public records, humans wouldn't be capable of gathering for another century. They're doing exactly what we expected, Miller said to the small group of officers gathered around him, running their standard pre-invasion scan pattern. Colonel Tom Richards, his head of intelligence, nodded, just like they did with the Centauri worlds before absorbing them into the Empire. They think we can't detect them at this range. Miller allowed himself a small smile. For 30 years, humanity had worked in secret, preparing for this moment. They had intercepted enough Imperial communications to know that sooner or later, Earth would draw the Empire's attention. Every leaked signal suggesting Earth's technological backwardness, every seemingly unsuccessful space mission, had been carefully orchestrated. Begin Phase 1, Miller ordered. Let's give them exactly what they expect to see. Across Earth, carefully hidden advanced technology powered down, replaced by more primitive systems that would be visible to Imperial scans. Orbital weapons platforms disguised themselves as communication satellites. Underground bases sealed themselves beneath layers of interference that would make them appear as natural formations. The next day, news channels across the world reported the same story. Strange lights in the sky, officially dismissed as weather phenomena. Social media buzzed with conspiracy theories, while governments issued calm denials. It was all part of the plan. In the Empire's capital ship, Grand Admiral Marcus reviewed the scout ship's findings with growing satisfaction. Earth, he mused, looking at the holographic display of the blue planet, rich in resources, technically capable enough to be useful, but not advanced enough to pose any real threat. His strategic advisor nodded in agreement. Their most advanced weapons are chemical rockets and nuclear devices. They haven't even mastered basic gravity manipulation. Standard conquest protocols should be more than sufficient. Prepare a diplomatic mission, Marcus ordered. Let's follow the standard procedure. Offer them the chance to join peacefully before we take what we want. The Imperial diplomatic vessel that entered Earth's atmosphere a week later was impressive by design. It landed in an open field outside the United Nations headquarters in New York, its polished hull gleaming in the sunlight. Ambassador Robert Stone stepped out, wearing the ornate robes of his office, ready to begin the process that had worked on 100 worlds before. Inside the Mountain Command Center, Miller watched the landing alongside the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Everything was proceeding according to their predictions. They always send the same type, Richards commented. An ambassador who's actually a military strategist, thinking we won't notice the difference. Miller nodded. And now we play our part. Remember, everyone, we're the primitive species who's overwhelmed by their advanced technology. The more they underestimate us, the better this works. As news channels broadcast the historic first contact, Miller sent a coded message to defense installations worldwide. Maintain Phase 1 protocols. Let them think they found easy prey. The Empire's representatives would spend the next few weeks meeting with Earth's leaders, conducting what they thought were subtle scans of military bases and gathering intelligence. They would file reports back to their superiors, all indicating the same thing. Earth was ripe for conquest, and humanity would continue its charade, knowing that sometimes the best defense was letting your enemy believe they had the upper hand. The game was on, and Earth was playing for keeps. Ambassador Stone walked through the halls of the United Nations with practiced confidence. Behind his diplomatic smile, his military training took note of everything. The primitive electronic security systems, the basic weapon scanners, and the simple projectile weapons carried by the security guards. Your world has made impressive progress, he told the assembled UN Security Council, his voice smooth and reassuring. The Empire would be pleased to help Earth advance even further. In the chamber, the world leaders played their roles perfectly. Some showed excitement at the prospect of advanced technology. Others expressed concern about losing their independence. It was exactly the kind of political division the Empire expected from a developing world. But beneath the United Nations building, in a secured room that didn't appear on any official blueprints, Admiral Miller watched Stone's every movement through advanced sensors that could read his heart rate, body temperature, and even the tiny fluctuations in his neural patterns. "He's lying about everything except his confidence," said Dr. Anna White, their leading xenobiologist. "They really believe we're as primitive as we appear." Miller nodded, studying the data. "And their scans. Exactly where we predicted," Colonel Richards reported. "They're focusing on our military bases, power plants, and communication centers. The dummy data we're feeding them shows exactly what they expect to see." Above ground, Stone continued his assessment. He visited military bases where commanders showed him their most advanced aircraft, fighters that the Empire considered hopelessly obsolete. He toured rocket facilities where scientists appeared to struggle with basic spaceflight. At each location, his hidden scanners gathered data that seemed to confirm Earth's technological limitations. What Stone didn't know was that each scanner was being fed carefully crafted false information. Every reading, every scan, every piece of data was designed to reinforce the Empire's assumptions about Earth's capabilities. In orbit, the Imperial diplomatic vessel transmitted its findings back to the Empire's fleet. The transmission was encrypted with what they believed to be unbreakable quantum codes. They didn't realize that Earth had broken these codes years ago by studying the Empire's previous conquests. "Their assessment is exactly what we want," Miller told the Emergency Council, meeting in their hidden chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains. "They see us as technically capable enough to be useful, but too primitive to pose any real threat." The council members, representing every major nation on Earth, reviewed the intercepted Imperial reports. Years of preparation had led to this moment, and every detail mattered. "Stone's report emphasizes our political divisions," Richards noted. "He thinks we're too fragmented to mount an effective resistance." "Let them think that," Miller replied. "The more they underestimate us, the better our plan works." Meanwhile, Stone attended a demonstration of Earth's most advanced weapons system, a missile defense shield that the Empire would consider ancient technology. As he watched the rockets launch, his hidden scanner recorded every detail, missing completely the quantum sensors and gravity manipulators hidden within the primitive-looking missiles. In his private quarters that evening, Stone prepared his final report to the Empire. His recommendations were exactly what Earth's leaders had anticipated. The planet was valuable, its defenses were weak, and its population would be useful servants of the Empire. Standard conquest protocols would be more than sufficient. "Send the report," he instructed his communications officer. "Mark it as highest priority." As the encrypted transmission left Earth's atmosphere, Miller and his team intercepted and read every word. The message confirmed that their deception had worked perfectly. The Empire was walking into their trap, step by step. "They'll send their fleet next," Miller told the council. "They always do. And when they come, expecting to find a helpless world." He didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone in the room knew the plan. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, and the Empire was about to learn a costly lesson about underestimating Earth. As Stone's diplomatic vessel prepared to leave Earth the next day, he felt satisfied with his assessment. The Empire would easily add this world to its collection. It never occurred to him that his entire mission had been orchestrated by the very people he thought he had fooled. The game was entering its next phase, and Earth was ready. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, the Emergency Council gathered for what would be their most important meeting yet. The room hummed with the soft sound of quantum computers, their displays showing the Imperial diplomatic vessel leaving Earth's atmosphere. Admiral Miller stood before the assembled leaders, his face illuminated by the blue glow of holographic displays. The Empire believes they've fooled us completely. Now it's time to show them just one small piece of what we can do. Are we certain about this course of action? Asked the Council President, her voice echoing in the cavernous chamber. Once we reveal even this much, there's no going back. Miller nodded, turning to face the massive screen behind him. It showed the positions of Imperial ships gathering at the edge of the solar system. They're already mobilizing their invasion fleet. If we wait any longer, we lose the advantage of surprise. Colonel Richards stepped forward, pulling up new data on the main display. Our quantum interceptors have mapped their entire communication network. We can send our message through every Imperial channel simultaneously. They won't be able to stop it, block it, or trace its origin. The Council members looked at each other, years of preparation leading to this crucial moment. Each person in the room represented a nation, but they all worked as one. The Empire's biggest mistake was believing Earth's divisions were real. Show them the message, the President ordered. Miller pressed his palm against a scanner, and a simple hologram appeared in the center of the room. The message was just 4 words long, but its impact would shake the Empire to its core. Leave. This is your only warning. Begin the transmission, Miller commanded. In space, aboard the Imperial flagship, Grand Admiral Marcus was reviewing the final invasion plans when every screen on his bridge suddenly went dark. The ship's quantum communications network, technology the Empire believed was unbreakable, had been completely hijacked. The message appeared everywhere at once, on personal devices, on ship displays, even in the neural implants of Imperial officers. The same 4 words, transmitted in perfect Imperial standard, appeared before every member of the invasion fleet. Impossible, Marcus whispered, staring at the message. Their technology shouldn't be capable of this. His chief technician worked frantically at the controls. Sir, they've penetrated our entire network. They're using quantum principles we've never seen before. This isn't primitive technology. In the mountain bunker, Miller watched the Empire's reaction through their own compromised systems. They're trying to trace the signal, he reported to the Council. Let them try. Each attempt will only show them how little they understand about our capabilities. The Empire's best cyber warfare teams launched counterattacks, attempting to trace the source of the transmission. But Earth's quantum defense systems were generations ahead of anything they had encountered before. Each probe was deflected, each trace led nowhere, and each attempt to block the message failed. Should we show them more? Richards asked, his hand hovering over the controls that could reveal even more of Earth's true capabilities. Miller shook his head. No. Let them wonder. Let them worry. Sometimes the threat you can't fully see is the most frightening of all. The message stayed on Imperial screens for exactly 1 minute before vanishing, as suddenly as it had appeared. In its wake, it left a stunned Empire trying to understand what had just happened. On the Imperial flagship, Marcus paced the bridge, his confidence shaken for the first time. How did they do this? How did we miss this level of technology? His advisors had no answers. The simple assessment they had made of Earth now seemed dangerously incomplete. Back in the mountain bunker, Miller addressed the Council one final time. The next move is theirs. They can either heed our warning and leave, or they can learn why we only needed to warn them once. The President finished. The Council members nodded in agreement. Humanity had shown just a glimpse of its true power. Now they would prepare for either outcome, peace or a battle that would reshape the galaxy's understanding of Earth forever. The warning had been delivered. The next phase would depend entirely on how the Empire chose to respond. Either way, Earth was ready. Grand Admiral Marcus stood before the massive holographic display on his flagship's bridge, watching as more Imperial warships emerged from hyperspace. The fleet now numbered 10,000 ships, the largest invasion force assembled in the past century. Primitive world or not, he told his gathered commanders, they've managed to breach our communications. We will make them regret such boldness. Behind him, the tactical display showed Earth, appearing peaceful and vulnerable. The Empire's ships formed a massive crescent at the edge of the solar system, their weapons primed and ready. Deep within Earth's hidden command center, Admiral Miller watched the Imperial fleet's formation with calm interest. Right on schedule, he said to Colonel Richards. They'd brought exactly the number of ships we predicted. The massive screens surrounding them showed every detail of the Imperial fleet. Earth's quantum sensors, carefully hidden from Imperial scans, captured even the smallest movements of the enemy ships. They're arranging themselves in their standard conquest formation, Richards noted, just like they did at Centauri Prime and a dozen other worlds. Miller nodded. And they still haven't detected any of our defenses. Maintain radio silence. Let them make the first move. Above them, in New York, London, Tokyo, and other major cities, life continued as normal. The public remained unaware of the massive fleet preparing to attack their world. This, too, was part of the plan. Earth's leaders had decided long ago that panic would only make their task harder. On the Imperial flagship, Marcus prepared to send his message to Earth. His voice carried the weight of countless successful conquests as he spoke into the communication system. People of Earth, his message began, broadcasting on all frequencies. Your recent display of technology, while impressive for a primitive world, changes nothing. You have 24 hours to surrender and join the Empire peacefully. If you refuse, we will take your world by force. The message played across Earth's communication channels. On the surface, government officials acted appropriately shocked and afraid. Emergency meetings were called. Leaders made public statements about considering their options. But in the mountain bunker, Earth's real leaders watched with satisfaction as events unfolded exactly as they had gamed out years ago. Should we respond? Asked the council president, though she already knew the answer. Miller shook his head. Silence will unnerve them more than any reply. They expect either immediate surrender or desperate pleas for mercy. They don't know how to interpret silence. On the Imperial flagship, Marcus waited as the hours ticked by. No response came from Earth. No surrender, no negotiations, not even a request for more time. The planet below them continued its normal routines as if 10,000 warships weren't poised to attack. They're either foolish or insane, his second-in-command said, watching the tactical displays. Our sensors show no significant defensive preparations, no fleet movements, no weapon systems activating. Nothing. Marcus frowned. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify what. In all his years of conquest, he had never encountered a world that simply ignored an Imperial ultimatum. Perhaps their communication breach was a lucky accident, one of his advisors suggested. They might not truly understand the danger they face. As the 24-hour deadline approached, tension grew among the Imperial fleet. The lack of response from Earth had unsettled many of the commanders. They had expected resistance, pleading, or surrender, not this eerie calm. Launch the first wave, Marcus finally ordered as the deadline expired. Standard conquest protocol. Disable their primitive defense systems first, then their communication networks. 500 Imperial warships broke formation, moving toward Earth in perfect attack positions. Their crews were confident, their weapons ready. They had done this hundreds of times before. In the mountain bunker, Miller watched them approach. All defense systems remained dormant, he ordered. Let them come a bit closer. The Empire's ships moved steadily forward, their sensors detecting nothing unusual. As far as they could tell, Earth was practically defenseless. Poor bastards, Richards muttered, watching the approaching fleet. They still think they're the hunters. Miller allowed himself a small smile. They're about to learn they're the prey. The first wave of Imperial warships crossed Jupiter's orbit, their crews confident and ready for an easy victory. On their sensors, Earth still appeared defenseless, showing only basic satellite networks and primitive defense systems. In the mountain bunker, Admiral Miller watched the enemy fleet's approach on the massive tactical display. "They've crossed the first trigger point," he announced calmly. "All stations, prepare for Protocol Omega." Colonel Richards stood at his station, fingers hovering over the quantum controls. "Sir, the fleet has reached optimal range for Phase 1. Miller took a deep breath. Decades of preparation had led to this moment. Execute Phase 1. Across the solar system, thousands of quantum-linked minds suddenly revealed themselves. The devices had been invisible to Imperial sensors, using technology far beyond the Empire's understanding. Before the Imperial fleet could react, the mines detonated simultaneously. On the Imperial flagship, Grand Admiral Marcus watched in horror as the first wave of his ships was engulfed in explosions that somehow bypassed their shields completely. "Impossible," his tactical officer shouted. "Their defensive technology shouldn't be capable of this." The quantum explosions ripped through the Imperial formation, destroying or disabling nearly 200 ships in the first wave. But Earth wasn't done yet. "Phase 2, Miller ordered. Suddenly, what the Empire had thought were simple communication satellites transformed. Panels slid away, revealing advanced weapon systems that had been hidden in plain sight. Beams of concentrated energy, using principles the Empire had never mastered, lanced out from Earth's orbit. "How did we miss this?" Marcus demanded, watching more of his ships fall to weapons that shouldn't exist. Their technology was supposed to be primitive. In the mountain bunker, Miller smiled grimly. "Show them our next surprise. Activate the Jupiter defense grid." The massive gas giant that had seemed empty on Imperial scans suddenly bristled with defensive platforms that had been hidden within its storms. More advanced weapons emerged, catching the Imperial fleet in a deadly crossfire. "Sir," Richards reported, "the Empire is attempting to regroup. Their ships are falling back to defensive positions. They're finally realizing this isn't the easy conquest they expected," Miller noted. "Launch our counter-offensive." From hidden bases on Mars, Earth's own warships finally revealed themselves. They were fewer in number than the Imperial vessels, but their technology was generations ahead. Ships that looked like simple cargo vessels or scientific platforms transformed into advanced warships. On the Imperial flagship, Marcus watched his carefully planned invasion crumble. "Our shields are useless against their weapons," his tactical officer reported. "They're using principles of physics we don't understand." "Fall back," Marcus ordered. "Regroup beyond their defense grid." But the retreat wasn't easy. Earth's defensive systems had been positioned perfectly to cut off their escape routes. Each backup plan the Empire tried was met with a counter that humanity had prepared years in advance. "Sir," Richards called out, "the Empire is transmitting emergency signals on all frequencies. They're calling for reinforcements." Miller nodded. "Let them call. Their nearest support fleet is 3 weeks away. By then, this will be long over." The Imperial fleet, now in complete disarray, tried to mount a counterattack. But each move they made was met with devastating precision. Earth's forces seemed to know their tactics before they used them. "How is this possible?" Marcus demanded, watching another squadron of his ships fall to Earth's defenses. They were supposed to be primitive. In the mountain bunker, the council president turned to Miller. "Should we press our advantage?" Miller shook his head. "No need. They're about to order a full retreat. Let them run. Let them tell others what happened when they underestimated Earth." True to Miller's prediction, the Imperial fleet began a full retreat. Ships that could still move began jumping to hyperspace, fleeing the trap they had walked into so confidently. Earth's defenders watched them go, their true power still partially hidden. They had revealed enough to win the day, but not everything they could do. Sometimes, Keeping a few secrets was the wisest strategy of all. Grand Admiral Marcus stood in the ruins of his flagship's main bridge. Emergency force fields flickered, holding back the vacuum of space where hull breaches had torn through the supposedly impenetrable armor. Around him, his surviving crew worked frantically to keep the damaged ship functioning. "Status report," he demanded, his voice hollow. His tactical officer's hands shook as he read from a damaged display. "We've lost 40% of the fleet, sir. Another 30% are severely damaged. The weapons they used, they simply ignored our strongest shields." Through the viewport, Marcus watched as more of his ships limped away from Earth's solar system. The mighty Imperial fleet, terror of 1,000 worlds, was running away. In Earth's mountain bunker, Admiral Miller studied the tactical displays showing the retreating Imperial forces. "They're beginning to understand," he told the assembled council, "but they still don't know everything." Colonel Richards nodded, pointing to new data streaming across their screens. "We're intercepting their communications. Their entire command structure is in chaos. They can't explain how we hid our true capabilities from them." On the screens, they watched as Imperial ships tried to analyze Earth's weapons. But the principles behind humanity's quantum-linked defense systems were beyond their comprehension. Each scan only confused them more. "Sir," a young lieutenant called out, "we're detecting attempts to access our computer networks. They're trying to steal our technology data." Miller smiled. "Let them try. They're about to learn another lesson." When the Imperial hackers breached what they thought were Earth's secure databases, they found only carefully crafted false information. Each bit of data they stole led them further from understanding humanity's true capabilities. On the Imperial flagship, Marcus received the intelligence reports with growing horror. "How?" he demanded. "How did they advance so far beyond us without our knowledge?" His science officer, face pale, tried to explain. "Sir, they didn't follow our technological path at all. While we focused on brute force and direct power, they developed technologies we never even considered. Their quantum manipulation abilities alone are centuries ahead of ours. And we never saw it," Marcus whispered. "All those primitive rockets, those basic satellites, were a facade," his intelligence officer finished. "They knew we were watching. Everything we saw was what they wanted us to see." In the mountain bunker, Miller watched the Empire's confusion with satisfaction. "They're starting to realize they never had a chance," he told the council. "But they still don't understand why." The council president stepped forward. "Should we show them more? Really drive the lesson home?" Miller shook his head. "No. Sometimes the most effective weapon is uncertainty. Let them wonder what else we're capable of." Across the solar system, Earth's defensive systems remained partially hidden, revealing only enough of their power to ensure the Empire's retreat. The quantum mines that had devastated their fleet were just one small part of humanity's arsenal. On the Imperial flagship, Marcus made the hardest decision of his career. "Send the signal," he ordered. "Full retreat. All ships are to jump to hyperspace as soon as they're able." As the order went out, his tactical officer looked up from his station. "Sir, they're not pursuing. They could destroy us all, but they're letting us go." Marcus understood the message in that mercy. It was another demonstration of power. Earth didn't need to destroy them completely. The survivors would carry the story of their defeat back to the Empire. In the mountain bunker, Miller watched the last Imperial ships prepare for hyperspace jumps. "And that," he said quietly, "is why you always check your target carefully before you attack." The council members nodded in agreement. Humanity had revealed enough of its power to ensure the Empire would think twice before returning, while keeping their most advanced capabilities secret. "Sir," Richards reported, "the last Imperial ship has jumped to hyperspace. The solar system is clear." Miller looked at the tactical display one last time. "Send the cleanup crews to collect the debris. Let's not waste good salvage." Earth had won its first interstellar battle, not through brute force or luck, but through careful planning, advanced technology, and the element of surprise. The galaxy would never look at humanity the same way again. 1 week after the battle, Admiral Miller stood before the Emergency Council for his final report. The massive display behind him showed the cleanup operations throughout the solar system, as Earth's ships collected the scattered remains of the Imperial fleet. "The message has been delivered," Miller announced. "Our quantum communications network confirms that news of their defeat has reached the Imperial capital." The Council President leaned forward. "And their response?" Miller pressed a button, ringing up intercepted Imperial communications. "They're in complete disarray. The loss of nearly half their invasion fleet to a supposedly primitive world has shaken their entire empire." On screens around the chamber, recordings showed the Imperial Senate in an uproar. The defeat at Earth had triggered a political crisis throughout their territory. Worlds that had feared the Empire's might were beginning to question its power. Colonel Richards stepped forward with his own report. "We've detected no signs of a counterattack being organized. Our analysis suggests they're too afraid of what other surprises we might have waiting." "And our second message?" the President asked. Miller nodded, bringing up the brief communication Earth had sent after the battle. "Next time, we won't warn you." "Simple," one council member commented, "but effective." "Very effective," Richards agreed. "Their intelligence agencies are tearing themselves apart trying to figure out how much they don't know about us. Every analysis they run just raises more questions." The council chambers filled with quiet satisfaction. Decades of preparation had paid off perfectly. Earth had revealed enough of its power to deter future attacks while keeping its greatest advantages secret. In the Imperial capital, Grand Admiral Marcus stood before the Emperor himself, trying to explain their devastating defeat. "They were waiting for us," Marcus reported, his voice heavy with realization. "Everything we thought we knew about Earth was wrong. Their primitive technology was a mask, hiding capabilities we still don't understand." The Emperor, his face dark with anger, reviewed the battle footage. "How did we miss this? How did an entire world hide its true nature from us?" "Because we saw what we wanted to see," Marcus answered. "We were so convinced of our superiority that we never questioned our assumptions." Back on Earth, life began returning to normal. The public remained unaware of how close they had come to invasion, or how thoroughly their defenders had repelled it. That, too, was part of the plan. Miller stood at the window of his mountain office, looking out at the peaceful Colorado landscape. "Begin Phase 2, he ordered over the secure quantum network. Across the solar system, Earth's defensive systems disappeared again, hidden behind their careful camouflage. The advanced weapons platforms around Jupiter vanished into the gas giant storms. Orbital defenses once more looked like simple communication satellites. "Back to looking primitive?" Richards asked, joining him at the window. Miller nodded. "The best defense is still the one your enemy doesn't know about. Let them wonder what else we're hiding." In deep space, Earth's quantum sensors tracked the Imperial fleet's retreat. The surviving ships spread the word to every corner of the galaxy. Earth was not to be underestimated. The seemingly primitive world had teeth, sharp ones, and wasn't afraid to use them. The Council President made one final address before the emergency session ended. "Today marks a new era for humanity. We've proven we can defend ourselves against any threat the galaxy might send. And we've done it our way," Miller added, "not through brute force or overwhelming numbers, but through preparation, innovation, and the careful use of surprise." As the sun set over the Rocky Mountains, humanity's defenders returned to their hidden posts. The quantum networks remained vigilant, the advanced weapons stayed concealed, and Earth maintained its carefully crafted appearance of primitive simplicity. The galaxy had learned its lesson. One warning was all humanity needed to give. Anyone foolish enough to ignore that warning would face the consequences. Earth was safe, its people protected by technology their enemies couldn't understand and defenders they would never see coming. The age of hiding was over, but the age of mystery had just begun.